and kind gestures are always priceless and can be exactly what an individual just needs to keep moving on. Disappointments are really not cool, and they can break even the best of bonds, even when they come to a family. Today's story is about a mother who sacrifices her house for her kids, but is left surprised by the turn of events after. Also, if you've not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now back to the story. Nora is a woman who is already at her old age. She pretty much had everything she would have wanted at that stage in her life. She had a house in a cool neighborhood, was blessed with 2 kids who were now grown-ups, was healthy and doing well medically, and there was nothing she would have wanted more than just enjoying her old age without any problems. However, a somewhat peaceful and sweet life would change in just a matter of weeks. Nora's kids, Tracy and Scott, were going through financial troubles at the time, and they thought the best way to calm their situation and get back on their feet was selling their mother's house. They informed Nora about this decision, and just like you'd expect from a mother who was willing to sacrifice her shelter and comfortable living condition for her children, Nora agreed without even hesitating. To her, the joy of her children was her priority, and at the moment, they surely were not happy with their financial situation, and she was willing to do everything she could do to help their situation. As if they'd been planning the sale for a really long time, Tracy and Scott started to act fast and tried to get the house sold. The whole process started with asking Nora to have her bags packed. The children instructed her to carry just 1 suitcase and leave every other thing in the house, as they didn't want her to carry too many things with her. Nora was not happy about this, as she really wanted to take her things away from the house she had been living in for many years. She thought leaving them would mean ignoring all the things she had gotten used to and also the memories that came with them. Nora was given a week to pack, and she spent that whole week walking around the house many times and admiring it like it was the last time she would ever see it. She felt it was a sacrifice she needed to make and was willing to help her children get out of their financial troubles. 1 week passed, and Nora had already packed her bags. However, she didn't just pack 1 suitcase. She added another bag to the side and kept some of the few things she really wanted to keep. Even though she would have wished to carry everything, she only packed a new bed linen which she had never used before, a beautiful tea set, and porcelain statues which she didn't want to throw away but gift to Tracy. On their arrival to get their mother, Tracy and Scott didn't look happy with their mother packing more than what they had told her to take. They even made this known to her mother by constantly complaining about it. Nora didn't really take this serious, as she attributed their behavior towards her to their lack of money and present conditions. She also felt that it was possible that they were not happy with having to sell her house. One thing that the children realized that they didn't address when they were planning the sale of their mother's house was where their mother would stay. Both Tracy and Scott didn't look like they wanted to have their mother in their respective houses. However, after a couple of minutes deliberating on the matter, Tracy agreed to let her mother move in with her, and with that, Nora was headed to Tracy's house to live, even though it was not something Tracy was really keen on. Elsewhere, things moved rather swiftly with the sale of Nora's house, as Tracy and Scott had everything done in just a few days, and just like that, Nora was without a house of her own. Nora didn't have to worry about the immediate sale of her house, as she was given a nice room in Tracy's house. The room had always been Tracy's husband's study, but he gave it up for his mother-in-law reluctantly after Tracy had asked to make the place a room for her mother. Even though it was nothing like her room in her former house, Nora still felt pretty comfortable and didn't have any chores to worry about living with her daughter. However, that would change just after a few weeks. Tracy's husband began to give gestures that implied that he was not happy with having Nora in the house. He complained about almost anything she did in the house, and this made Nora unhappy. For Nora, having her daughter, with whom she partly made the sacrifice for, to be on her side would be just a little thing to ask, but somehow, Tracy was not happy too. She made things really difficult for Nora and constantly made comments suggesting she was not happy with having her own mother around. Even the statues that Nora had gifted her, Tracy seemed to either just keep them somewhere without using them or threw them away. It was at this point that Nora first thought about her decision to sell the house pretty well. She regretted the decision already, even though she had only done it to support her children. She felt she could have rejected their request to have the house sold, as she was now facing the consequences of her decision, which she really shouldn't have to worry about. Things in the house got even more unbearable for Nora as weeks passed, and even Tracy had to look for an alternative to having her mother around. She called her brother Scott and told him it was time for him to take their mother in. Even though Scott first disagreed with the idea, he eventually had no choice, and it wasn't long after that Nora moved in with him. Unlike at Tracy's house, where Nora was still comfortable for a while, Scott's house was even worse. His wife didn't enjoy the presence of her mother-in-law right from the moment she brought in her things to start staying with them, and she did see the fact that Nora was frustrated with the situation. She didn't let Nora into the kitchen and even served her leftovers. She would do everything she could just to make life miserable for Nora, even though all Nora would have wanted was just a place to stay. Scott was not left out too. He would join his wife in criticizing his mother, and just then, he contemplated sending her out of his house. Scott called Tracy to inform her that he would like their mother to return to her place, but Tracy blatantly refused because she felt Nora had already stayed in her house much longer. Over the phone, the siblings contemplated what to do next with their mother. Scott even suggested taking Nora to a retirement home, but Tracy quickly disagreed, saying she didn't have enough money to pay for it. Their call lasted even longer, with Tracy also saying that she knew that their mother would be a problem and that they should have thought about what to do with her before finally selling the house. After a long time on the phone, they decided that Nora still stayed with Scott while they thought of what to do next. Meanwhile, Nora was not happy at all with her situation. She was once a house owner and now she had to stay with her children, and in both cases, the decision has turned out worse than she would have probably expected. One day, she then decided to go back to her neighborhood to see one of her old neighbors. On getting there, she caught a glance of her house and how big it was already. Whoever bought the house was quite quick with renovating the house and making it a mansion. Just then, tears rolled down her eyes as she thought of how she was living there just a couple of months ago, but now had to worry about whether she could leave her children and stay somewhere else. Soon after, her friend and former neighbor, Emma, saw her and took Nora into her house to console her. Emma was worried about Nora. She was looking a lot older than she used to be, even though they were just a few years apart in age. She was sad to hear about Nora's case and even offered her the chance to stay with her since she was even staying alone. Emma would even have to eventually leave the house to stay in her son's house, but again, she was willing to take Nora with her. Nora agreed to stay with her friend, and this time, Nora was absolutely comfortable. She was looking healthy and glowing once again. She looked like her old self again, and Emma was happy for her. Soon after, they would move on to the house that Emma's son Tom had built for his mother on his property. Tom was a very good man, and he was always nice to Nora. He got her things, just as he got for his mother, and this made Nora very happy. His wife was equally very generous, and she even developed a likeness for Nora. At this place, Nora was happy, and she didn't have to think about the sad things that her children put her through. She was disappointed and didn't expect any of what they did, even as she was only trying to help them by leaving the house for them to sell. She was so disappointed that she didn't let them know where she was, even though Emma asked to tell them several times. This, however, didn't stop Emma from calling Tracy once to tell her. However, she would be left shocked by the response she got from Tracy. Nora's daughter had spoken angrily on the phone about how they had to look for her for a few weeks after she left them without telling them her whereabouts. In return, Tracy got a sound bashing over the phone from Emma, who told her what they, including Scott, did to their mother was wrong. She then hung up and never told Nora of the call, as she just wanted the woman to keep enjoying and not worry about her children. This case for Nora was more of a case of a good mother with ungrateful children. Despite only wanting to help them, they were ready to leave her to be on her own, or even be sent to a retirement home even without consulting her. However, Emma's kind gesture seemed to be the big deal for Nora, and it surely had her being herself again. Several of these kind gestures have continued to be a part of our daily lives, with people willing to do more to help people be better. According to a post from BuzzFeed, several people posted kind gestures they received that really meant a lot. A user, Olivia, talked about a time she was helped by a total stranger to fill her car's gas tank when she didn't have enough money. She posted, quote, "I was 40 miles from home in a high crime area for a work obligation, and I had driven with my empty gas tank light on for the entire trip there. Quote, I had $1.67 on my debit card, and as I asked the clerk at the sketchy gas station I stopped at to put $1 on my pump, a man walked in. My card was declined, so I sat in my car trying to find any change or singles I might have stashed. The man came up to my car and told me he put $5 on my pump. I don't know if this man has any idea how much he helped me, but it got me home safe, even though I cried tears of appreciation for most of my drive," unquote. Another user, Susie, mentioned a time when a random couple consoled her at a grocery store after her grandpa's death. She said, quote, "I was grocery shopping when I received the call that my grandpa had died. My grandpa and I were close my whole life. Everybody called me his little shadow. We knew it was coming, but to bear it over the phone put me into a shock. I just stood there and went white and numb. An older couple happened to be standing near me and sensed something was wrong. They asked, but I couldn't make the words come out. They sat with me for a while, got a hold of my best friend to come pick me up, and bought the groceries in my cart. Then, not too long after, they sent flowers to my house. Apparently, they had my friend's phone number from when they called her, and they paid her to send a bouquet to me. That was one of the worst days of my life, and I miss my grandpa every single day. But that kindness and humanity makes me cry in a good way." There are several other cases like this, and they really go to show that a single kind gesture could be all a person needs. If you enjoyed the video, kindly give it a thumbs up, leave a comment in the comment section, and share with others. Thanks for watching, and catch you in the next one.